right time. Thank you, that was beautiful. All of you musicians. Are they just singing and playing clearer, or do we have
reverb?
Better music, better sound. Yes. Somehow the sound has changed too. Everything's working. This is lovely. It's good to be home. It's good to see everybody. Oh dear. So I told Nancy the title of my talk several weeks ago. She almost fell out of her chair because usually I'm telling her on Fridays, or I say when you get here on Sunday you'll know. So I knew several weeks ago that was the name of my talk, and it was working me. It had been working me for a while. And then I found that image. I said, well, that really speaks to this. Because the idea of leaning into God is problematic on the surface. Because what are you leaning into? This invisible force in the universe? How do you do that? How does it reveal itself enough for you to feel safe enough to lean into it when something's not quite right in your life, when you're struggling with something? How do you lean into something you can't see, touch, taste, smell, or hear? How do you do that? Well, I have some ideas on that. And this idea that there are times where we need to be able to do that is very clear. We have moments in our lives when we are in doubt, confusion, and uncertainty. Or we're not clear about what's next. And it starts at a young age. Isn't that adorable? There are times when we don't know the answers to those questions. Questions like, where am I going to get the money to do that? How is this going to work out? What do I need to do next? When is it going to stop? Whatever it is that's going on. There's times where we don't have the answer readily available. That's when we need to lean into God. How do we do that? What is the mechanism for that? Well, I believe there is one, and I'm going to give you some, it's going to sound like I'm going way off course with this, but I'm going to bring it all back together. What I want to give you is some scientific evidence that could help us understand this idea of leaning into God. And to do that, I have to go back to the origins of the human species, the beginning of this thing called humanity on planet Earth. Remember that? You all got that from your high school science teacher, right? That's a lie. That is not the truth. Man did not evolve from the other primates. That's not what happened. And there's clear evidence that I will share with you today on this. Have any of you had your high school science teacher find you and correct this? I didn't think so. It didn't happen. And here's how we know. This idea of being human is about 200,000 years old. Humans showed up on the planet, not evolving from primates, but showed up instantly on planet Earth 200,000 years ago. Now, you know, we don't have history that long ago, so there was an involvement of the human species on planet Earth, but not from primates. Humans live on this planet because they were created on this planet. And the scientific evidence is compelling. And we've had this for, 20, 30 years now. Yet it's still not popularly thought about and talked about openly. But it's true. Now that we can study DNA as clearly as we can, now that we understand the mechanism of DNA, which creates the human body, the human form, and every other form that's an organic life form on planet Earth, it's all made out of DNA. The thing is that all the DNA has different coding in it. It reads differently. And in some cases, you can see how mutations occur in the DNA a little bit at a time, and things evolve in nature. We know that that's part of the natural way. It's called natural selection, and it happens. It really does. However, that is not how we got here. It's very clear from the work that's been done on DNA, on chromosomes of the human experience and other life forms, that that's not what's happening. And that's what happened to create us on this plane, our bodies on this plane. So what you got there is the second chromosome of a chimpanzee. You know, they kind of say that's where we came from. Those kinds of beings evolved into man. But that's not what happened. That is an example of the second chromosome of the chimpanzee. This is the human chromosome. Second. That's very different. That's not the same thing. And it's not that the two of them just sort of created a point of connection. There is a vast amount of difference that happened between the one on the left and the one on the right. And the scientists that study it realize that this thing had to be somehow engineered for it to exist. And it's one of those things that it not only had to be engineered, that much of the DNA within that chromosome structure was changed. It wasn't just that it connected. It connected, which is a highly improbable thing because it wouldn't be stable in doing that to begin with. But also, a great amount of the DNA that's in the one on the left repeats. It just repeats over and over and over and over a series of information. Where the one on the right doesn't have those repetitions. Actually, 8% of the human genetic structure is in that chromosome on the right, which is in every cell of your body. And it is so different from the one on the left that the scientists that study this now say they could see how it was, parts of it were removed, how it was shifted over, and it was brought together in the form that it is on the right. That could not have evolved over time because it had to all happen at once to work. And an example of that might be a mousetrap. A mousetrap requires all its parts or it won't work. Or a watch requires all its parts or it won't work. It isn't that one gear showed up or a spring showed up in a mousetrap and then the next thing showed up. Because we're talking about organic life. And until it's all in all of its pieces there, it just won't function. So it could not have happened slowly over thousands of years. It had to happen instantly. It had to happen all at once. That's different. That's different than most science revealed to us or said was so for most of our lives, certainly in our childhood. We'll look at someone younger in the room. Joey, did you learn that evolution thing when you went to school? Yeah, it's still around, probably. So, no, not that Joey just got out of school. But it's like, that's what we were taught. And it's so clear now, and there's such strong scientific evidence to this that it had to be engineered. How did that happen? Well, maybe it happened through some creationist process. Maybe some intelligence in the universe suddenly and it was there. Or it was somehow designed, engineered, to bring our species onto this planet. How did that happen? I haven't a clue. I don't think anybody else does either. But the idea that somehow we are part of some evolutionary course is just not so. The highest truth is that we suddenly showed up and that our 200,000 years ago was the beginning of something that was very different than anything we had known before. Here's another piece of the puzzle. When you go back into the ancient writings, into the ancient teachings, there's some real clues about how the human genetic experience showed up. And this is one of those clues. This is the English translation of an ancient Hebrew text about 3,000 years ago. This was written. And it's pretty clear, it's so complex in its explanation of the creation of life on planet Earth that it clearly wasn't just envisioned. Whoever put this book together 3,000 years ago, and it's not a long book, but whoever put it together had to be told something to get all this right. Because 3,000 years ago, we didn't have science. We didn't have studies deep in the understanding of how organic life works. We had people living as they did, and we can only imagine what life was like 3,000 years ago. It was relatively primitive. And yet, this book that is very detailed in the structure of life comes along and creates a code understanding begins at least the understanding of genetic coding without any of those words to use. So to most people, even though it's the Hebrew book of creation, it's not something that fits into any evolving understanding. It just doesn't, it kind of comes along. Poof, there it is. It's not something that's taught a great deal. It is outside of the Kabbalah. It is outside of the teachings of the Jewish faith. It's just this book called the Book of Creation. How does that fit? Well, here's the information that comes from this, is that this book suggests that there is coding in our DNA that has information for us. Again, without using any of those kinds of words. Well, about 30 years ago, apparently, my friend Greg Brady, I get to call him my friend because he bought me lunch once. He began to study this, trying to understand from ancient cultures how this whole thing of the evolution of man occurred. And when he found this, he realized there was something deep within it that needed to be discovered from it. And what he extrapolated from these teachings, the very limited teachings, is that this whole idea of how our DNA is structured and what it really means has a great deal more information than scientists are realizing. And this is the thing that he's been doing for 30 years. He's been taking ancient languages, even current day languages, it still works. Any written alphabetic language or any written language has a series of symbols called letters in most, but some are really, to us, look much more like symbols than letters. Every single symbol in any language on planet Earth has numbers that align with the letters. If the numbers align with the letters, then there's a relationship between the mathematics and the language. And what Braden's been doing is looking at the numbers based on the atomic weight of the elements that are in DNA, which are sequential. The elements of like hydrogen, oxygen, helium, carbon show up in a certain order to create our DNA. And by showing up molecularly like that, they all have atomic weights. And if you look at the strands and how they begin and relate the weight off the periodic table, the weight of the elements that are there relating to the numbers that relate to the letters, are you following me? That there's messages in our DNA. There's actually a message at the beginning of every strand of DNA in our body. Untold trillions of DNA. They all start with the same code of elements that actually tell us something. And the interesting thing about, the whole thing is interesting, but the thing that captured my attention is that he said that's true no matter what language you're working with. It still shows up with the same message. Have I got your attention? Yes. Would you like to know what the message is? Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the DNA. Here's the message. Are you ready? God eternal within every body. The elements that begin every strand of DNA in your body, translated from periodic atomic weights to numbers, to letters. Every one of them says, God eternal within every body. I believe I've got your attention. If that's so, and I have no reason to think that Braden would make this up, then that's a message for us to know. That leaning into God means to know who we are. That's all we have to do. Let that burn those words into your mind right now. Say them with me. God eternal within every body. Your DNA says that. if that's so, that's all we need to know. God eternal dwells in all of us. Not etherically, not or other dimensionally. God dwells in every single strand of DNA, in every cell in your body. Wow. That is who you are. You are God eternal. In your body. I mean, we don't even need to go to this idea of the spiritual essence. In your body, God dwells absolutely in every single strand of DNA. That divine presence is in you completely and wholly. And what we do with that is we remember. We remember who we are. We live from who we are. We know who we are. And life unfolds accordingly. So what's all this stuff about problems? What's all this stuff about being confused and uncertain of who we are and having questions we can't answer? When the elemental level of who we are is revealed, that we are the presence of the divine. We've been saying that around here for a long time, but I love it when science will back us up. So you've got it. You lean into whatever you know yourself to be, and what you find is God. And there is no problem too big for God. There is no question unanswered by God. So that if we embody consciously that which is already physically present, usually I'm trying to get you to do it the other way around. I'm trying to tell you, take your consciousness and make it your body. Now I'm telling you, your body's already telling you that the divine is within you. Can you make out your consciousness? If you can, how could anything in your body not respond to that knowing within you? Your body already does respond to everything. All of our bodies do. When we get confused, our body suffers from that. It responds to that because it loves us so much. Our bodies love us so much, they'll go through hell for us to reveal the thing that we think is going on. We have that kind of power because God eternal is within every body, within every cell, within every organ and every system. God is present, absolute and complete. Does that mean that we should live forever in our bodies? Of course not. That was never the plan. The plan was to come here and be here and to do what is ours to do, and then leave and go do something else. Do we come back into another body? I don't know. It seems logical to me, but what do I know about these things? I just know that when I hear this kind of evidence exists that is trying so wholly to share with us who we are, it stops me in my tracks. And I gotta say, that's it. That's who we are. That's what we've come to do. Oh my God, we are the presence of the divine. It's true again and again and again, no matter what your perception is. That stands true as an absolute in all of life. That's where we're going. That's what we're here to understand. Yeah, pretty cool. So if that's so, what can we do to do this leaning into this? Well, there's another element to this that is important to me. And it speaks to all of you because you get up on Sunday morning and you brush your teeth, I bet, and put on some clothes and come over here. You sit in this room so we all gather together because there's a power within our gathering that cannot be denied. That when we come together, we have the ability to set aside those doubts, those confusions, and to remember who we are collectively. Then we can look into one another's eyes and see the divine. And that's the most powerful thing I know to do. That's why we come here. Yes, our teaching is absolutely important to this mix. And I hope that all of you are finding ways to embrace and embody the teachings that we teach here. And being together makes it work. If we all were trying to do this through reading books or things on the computer by ourselves, we could only go so far. But when we come together, we remember together who we are. A few years ago, I learned a beautiful chant by Hafiz. You guys can set up if you want to. It's a very simple chant, and it starts one of Hafiz's poems. And a beautiful lady out in California, in Washington State, turned it into a chant. And it speaks to me exactly of what we're doing here. And I want you to share this. I want to share this chant with you, and I want you to chant it with me. And we'll chant it as long as it feels right. And then we'll be complete. Okay? So. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. Sing it with me. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I live as close to you as I can. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. Look in somebody's eyes. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. You've got to close your eyes and sing it to yourself. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. One more time. Because the one I love lives inside of you, I lean as close to you as I can. God eternal within everybody. God eternal within you. God is you. Bless you.
I'd like to invite our welcomers to come forward. Who is in this room for the very first time? What a great idea you had to come to Center for Spiritual Living Asheville. Welcome, 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 welcome. I'm so glad you're here. These wonderful people have a card that says welcome home. If you want to know about the great things that are happening here, like annual summer prosperity class where we learn how to grab money right out of thin air and demonstrate increased income, like the fire walk that's happening tomorrow night, like classes and workshops and all kinds of events. If you want to know more about those, give us your name, your address. If you put your phone number down, I'll call you and say hello. If you just want email, just write your email address down and check email only, and we'll send you our email newsletter that we have and let you know what's going on here at the center. But more than that, what I have found is that people who come to this center and many centers like this have their lives get better and better and better, because we are not separate physical beings. We are energy beings. We are beings of light and love, and we vibrate together. So by coming into this room, something has quickened within you today. Something has awakened within you, and you will never be the same. And I'm just delighted that you chose to spend the morning with us at Center for Spiritual Living Asheville. Welcome home. Now I'd like to invite our prosperity acceptors to come forward. Take out what you're going to give. And I am just so grateful for us. The work that we do on the website, changing the lives of millions of people, not the least of which is having the Russian Science of Mind textbook up there right here, right now. You can find it on your phone. Is made possible because of the strong support that we have at this center. We're not running around putting out brush fires and worrying how we're going to pay the bills or what we're going to do. We are solid. We are strong. And from that solid foundation, we can reach out into the world and make real changes. And so I want to thank you for all of the generous ways you support this center, whether it's putting in the money in the baskets, whether it's being part of our monthly auto giving plan, whether it is having your bank send in your check, going out to the social hall and using the donation station, or going on to PayPal and making your donation with the group that says, don't let the sun go down on a tide. Keep that spinning. Thank you for all of the ways you support this center. We are a prosperous and healthy community, and I am deeply grateful. So what I like to do is open up my hand, put the gift in it, cover it with the other hand, and bring it to my heart, where I know that God is the source of all supply, that money is God in action. Money is the flow of spirit in our lives, and we are filled full to overflowing with that essence of the divine in us, as us, is us now. And so we open to the prosperity and the abundance of life. I know that each and every one of us comes together this day, giving and receiving, to make this center for spiritual living all that it was ever meant to be. It is a place of peace, a beacon of light, a tower of strength, and a fountain of wisdom that touches the lives of all who call it home. And we'll repeat our investment affirmation together aloud. I freely and joyously give from the abundance and fullness of my overflowing wealth, knowing my gift goes with love as it touches and blesses the world, and so it is. Get that Rhoda. Yay.